I've got this job to do this, let me do it. And actually one of my, the best memory ever was I was standing in a circle with the American Secret Service on one side and then the English government on the other side. And I was in the middle telling everyone how we were going to do this. And when you just kind of do a little check back and think, what am I doing? I don't know.
Is this really happening?
Yes. But it all went really well. And I was told that they would be late. They wouldn't stay long. They wouldn't eat everything. And I can tell you that at the end, when I was invited up to meet President Biden and all the other world leaders and their wives, they were very relaxed. It felt like I was turning up at the kind of late for a dinner party that I'd been invited to, but I was just late. And everyone was very happy and relaxed, and they ate everything. There was just none of this, like, I didn't feel like there was joy. There was a real sense of joy. And that to me was everything, because I knew I'd done my job.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Wine Podcast from JaneAnson.com. I am Jane Anson. And today we have a wonderful conversation with a celebrated British chef, restaurateur and author called Emily Scott. Emily is the author of 3 books, Sea and Shore, Time and Tide, and the most recent, which just came out in May 2025, called Home Shores. All of them are inspired by Cornwall, by her love of cooking, often with largely with fish dishes. She's written across many different publications, from the Times to the Guardian, and been on television on various things with Rick Stein, The Great British Menu, Saturday Kitchen. She really is, as you will discover, a wonderfully warm and engaging person who helps to kind of bring to life the beauty of cooking and of sharing food with friends and family. She has today a fabulous Substack that I can really recommend called Shore to Shore. And one of the things that you'll read about in Shore to Shore is that she has recently moved to Bordeaux. So that's one of our discussions today, is the impact that Bordeaux has had in terms of the inspiration for her ingredients. She actually, her grandfather was French, so the kind of coming full circle of having spent lots of time in Provence, working in Burgundy, age 16. She worked in a restaurant in Burgundy, was her first real job in a professional kitchen, and then coming to Bordeaux today. She's run plenty of restaurants previously in Cornwall, both beautiful next to the harbour in Port Isaac, to a gastro pub which has won many awards. And in 2021, she created a dinner for the G7 summit the Eden Project in Cornwall, for world leaders and for British royalty. So that's also going to be pretty interesting to hear about that. So we're thrilled to have her with us, and I'm thrilled to have you with us. So I hope you enjoy. Hi, Emily Scott. Thank you for joining me today. I have been looking forward to getting you on this podcast since you moved to Bordeaux a couple of months ago. Could you tell us, first of all, why? Why did you move to Bordeaux? What was it that inspired the move from Cornwall?
Well, first of all, Jane, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. Thrilled to be here. And yes, here I am in Bordeaux, which is a bit of a dream come true, because France has always been in my life. My grandfather was half French, so we spent a lot of our time in Provence as children. And then I spent a lot of my early years learning to cook in Burgundy. But Bordeaux was never on my radar until I met my partner, Mark, who is a winemaker. So I have kind of fallen in love, I guess. Well, I fell in love with Mark and Bordeaux, but very much through him. And now here I am kind of making, I guess, my own way a little bit, even though we're very much here together. It's quite exciting for me to discover my Bordeaux.
Yeah, and you've lived in Provence before. So what surprised you about Bordeaux? Is there anything particularly different?
Do you know what? Everyone is so friendly, and it's such a cool city. And this is a big adventure for me. My children have all left home, so I'm in that kind of stage of my life where you kind of feel a bit like, okay, it's I don't have to be, my children are independent. What am I doing next? So this is like a big adventure, and I've been so surprised and happy about how lovely it has actually felt, even though anxiety and excitement are very connected.
Definitely two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
This is a city, like most French cities, full of markets, full of small shops selling kind of individual styles of food. Has that changed anything about how you cook, or have you found anything you've particularly enjoyed?
So, well, for me, I grew up very much with the French culture. My kind of the way we were brought up was à table. We were brought together around a table. So being here is just like the best place in the world I can imagine. And also just I've always, my ethos has been very strong in the sense of to do with seasonality, provenance, and sustainability, I guess, kind of bringing all those things together. So Bordeaux is just like the best sweet shop to me ever, because it's kind of it's so grounded with everything I think and feel about food and wine and bringing people together.
Can I take you back then to you're a chef, you own restaurants, you're a cookbook author. What was it that first sparked your love of food right back when you were young?
I had very strong women in my life. So my mother's an excellent cook. My grandmothers were excellent cooks. As I said, grandfather Rex was half French. So they moved to Provence in the kind of 80s. And then if we weren't in Cornwall, we were in France. So the Cornish connection came from high days and holidays with my father's side of the family. But I stayed in Cornwall because I married a fisherman. So it was quite romantic. I divorced the fisherman, so that's less romantic. But Cornwall is very much at the heart of everything. I guess my career started in Cornwall, even though France had been kind of where it's like making a good stock. I learned everything that I kind of really meant something to me in my childhood days. For me, cooking is all about, not about the chef necessarily, but about where something has come from and who is behind it. And I think chefs get far too self-important sometimes. And I do think you have to kind of take it back to the sense of place of where something's come from. So for me, visiting the vineyards is a way of learning about the wine, I guess, smelling the air, that kind of thing. I think the chateaus open their doors in June. So we did a little tour.
Where did you go to?
We went to Chateau Olivier, Carbonnière. We went to Chateau Brown, which I surprisingly really, that was really nice.
And where was the first restaurant that you were actually working in? When were you first as a sous chef or in the kitchen professionally?
So I grew up kind of in my late teens. I worked in a lovely hotel and restaurant called Le Tap in deepest Burgundy. And in the end, actually, I was only 16, and one of the owners became unwell, and I ended up taking over the kitchen with Jean-Christophe, who was running the front of house.
Age 16?
Yeah. So I kind of learnt over the stove quite quickly, but it was a wonderful time because it was cooking the food that I love most dearly now, which is all about we had ouvriers that would come in, Monsieur Soufflet, and I'm not making the names up. Monsieur Soufflet, Baby Rose the butcher would arrive with his van kind of wobbling down into the village. We'd have, Monsieur Thierry, we'd have Jean-Philippe. They'd all come in for like bangers and mash and, like hearty food. Like I do this as a lovely sausage casserole in one of my recipe books with cabbage, which is really delicious. It was all those kind of foods like pain perdu, bread and butter pudding, lemon tart, all those kind of, I guess, nostalgic dishes that I was probably fed as I was growing up. But that was the kind of grounding of, I guess, my love for bringing people together. It's not necessarily about faffy sauces or, fine dining. It's about real food, real people.
And I guess there's something about having restaurants and being next to the ocean. There's something about that kind of makes you slow down automatically. You're often with friends in a big group if you're in those kind of settings. So I suppose that lends itself to that very open idea of being around a table, just being relaxed.
Yeah, no, I think for me, it's where the real conversations happen. And actually, I've juggled bringing up my children as well with working kind of at quite a high level. And actually that one place every day we gathered 3 times a day, well, twice, generally.
Depending on their age.
Was round the table.
Yep.
And that is still the most important thing to us now. We always come together around a table, and that's where you kind of work things out. Or cooking. I love cooking with someone. I love cooking with my daughter or with Mark. It's just fun to hang out and cook together.
Yeah. Is there a single ingredient from the southwest of France, from the Bordeaux area, that you have got to know or would like to get to know better?
There's so many good ingredients. I've got to know the vendor in Capucin who sells all the Pyrenees cheese.
So the main market here in Bordeaux. Yeah,
and that's what he does is, it's amazing. But I quite like the piment espelette, which is just quite subtle, but kind of quite never underestimated. I think that's really a nice larder essential for me now.
Yep.
And I'm kind of playing
what kind of dishes would you put it with?
Well, kind of at the end of a dish, or maybe if you're making a cheese biscuit, you'd add that instead of cayenne, you'd swap it out. It's interesting, in a lot of my recipes, it kind of does pop up, especially in Time and Tide. Just because it was something that I guess I associate with here. So it kind of just feels like it has a place in my larder, my kitchen now.
That's lovely. That's also one of my favourite villages in France.
Oh, really?
It's
nice.
So beautiful. All of those Basque houses, the kind of half-timbered, red and white, and
I need
some
to go.
red and black. It's absolutely beautiful. You'll love it.
Aww.
And the peppers are strung up, drying
Lovely.
outside all of the houses on the streets. It's really wonderful.
Amazing.
It really is. So you've done many things in your career. You've opened your own restaurants. How old were you when you opened your first restaurant?
I think I was 23, 24, but it was I'm not sure you can call it a restaurant. It was in Port Isaac in North Cornwall, and it was a tea room, basically.
Ah, great.
But the first coffee machine in Port Isaac, which is quite exciting, quite good. That was quite edgy back then. But then I moved on to the harbour, which is right on the waterfront there, and I cooked quite hard for a long time there, just quietly and consistently. No one knew I was really there, apart from people who'd come to visit high days and holidays. But I kind of learnt quite quickly about business and about cooking and about juggling a family. So it was quite tough, but it was very special. But I actually sold that restaurant in 2013, and then I kind of had a little break from restaurants, because I was kind of in between juggling my children, but then ended up with a pub. So I kind of went from quite a small restaurant to then quite a big pub.
Also in Cornwall, also in Port Isaac?
Also in Cornwall, but inland. Mm-hmm. So I did really well there. That was really exciting. But you have to have so many hats on in a pub. You're the chef, the landlady, the cleaner, the everything. So that was quite tough.
All of this wide experience, so running your own kitchen, opening restaurants, then running a pub. I'm wondering, at what point did you want to capture all that experience and put it down on paper? Were you always somebody who shared restaurants with friends? What was it that led to your first book?
Oh my goodness, my first book. When I had my first restaurant, I always wanted to write. I always I'm that person that always writes postcards still, or I have I don't journal every day, but I like to use pen and paper. I like sending birthday cards, all that kind of thing. So it was very, it was really important that I wanted to put my recipes, all my story. But it took me 10 years to get my first book commissioned. So I think you're very lucky if it comes very quickly. I had to put a lot of work in before I got to that point.
Had you written the book before you found a publisher?
I had written a synopsis. It was kind of, I was a bit like, what's in my head, but I kept working hard. And after I had quite a lot of success at the pub, so, it helps if your profile is raised. Being a female in a male-dominated industry helped. Frustratingly, helped.
Helped at some point, but I imagine to begin with, Cornwall's got quite a few high-profile male chefs.
Oh, yeah.
Did you find that tough to break in at first?
It's funny because I've always tried to kind of do my own thing and try and not kind of compare and despair and run with the crowd. I was trying to just I kind of have this mantra: just be consistent, turn up, work hard. But I was always the token woman, and it is harder. Of course it is. I'm not going to sit here and pretend it wasn't. But that it's a lovely food culture in Cornwall, and all the most well-known chefs are very lovely and very supportive. So, it was always a pleasure kind of cooking alongside them or working with them. And Nathan Outlaw's actually just written the most beautiful foreword for my third book. And so it's all very collaborative, actually. So it's good, but it's tough. It's tough, kind of, or you get people saying, "Would you be able to do this? Because we're looking for more females." That's a bit annoying. But anyway, that's where we are. But it did take me a long time to get Sea and Shore published. But that was after kind of saying yes. I'm sure you say yes to opportunities, and you're thinking, "Oh, do I want to do that?" And all I was thinking is just keep saying yes, turn up, do the work, and then in 2019 it finally landed on the right desk with the right publisher.
So tell me, Sea and Shore, your first book. You look back at it now. Is there one recipe that jumps out that tells the story? You were saying that you wanted to share the stories.
I think there's a lot of recipes actually that remind me of cooking in Burgundy. There's a lot of my essays on top of the recipes will take you back to a place. That's what food's all about for me. It's about that kind of nostalgic sense, that smell, a peach, or peeling apples at the old wooden table for the tarte tatin. It's kind of very simple. So there's a lot of recipes that mean something to me. Recipes my grandmother's written or my mother's written. So it's quite personal, and it kind of tells the story of how I ended up in Cornwall and kind of my journey through the seasons by the sea. So it's more personal, I guess, than the other two. Time and Tide still is, but Home Shores, my new book, is very recipe-led and not as personal.
I actually met your partner, Mark Hellier, years ago when I first moved to Bordeaux, because at the time he was living here and was making Chateau Sivrac in Bly. He moved back to the UK, and I'm guessing to you a while ago. But how has having a partner who is a wine producer changed kind of your relationship with wine and how you use it in your restaurants or in your food?
Well, I think we were always drawn together because of food and wine. So I think Mark has this wonderful sense. He's very humble by nature, but he has a wonderful kind of palate and sense of place. And actually, I think was the most fantastic winemaker, and I wish he'd do it again. I'm trying to get him to kind of, why does this have to, well, let's make wine. But it's very important in our life. I mean, he is like my chief kind of taster of recipes because of his palate is so good. But we don't, generally a meal in our house will always have a glass of wine, generally, because he very much believes that, they go together and it's one of life's absolute joys. So I think we're quite a good pairing ourselves. It just has worked really nicely, the fact that his world has been about wine and my world's been about food. You were asked in 2021 to cook for the G7 summit at the Eden Project, yes. I believe, in Cornwall. I mean, that's quite a big deal. How did that come about? And what are your memories of cooking for world leaders? That was cool. I mean, we look back on that day and it was extraordinary. I was approached by the Cabinet Office saying that they're looking for someone to curate a dinner for the world leaders for the main dinner on Friday evening. But they didn't want just a chef. They wanted someone that was going to kind of think about how to lay the table, what cutlery we're going to use flowers, glassware. And I guess I was quite well known for bringing, not just thinking about the food, thinking about the wine.
As a whole.
So bringing a kind of, I guess, Emily Scott food I'd built up over the years as a brand. I think I'm associated with a certain style, which is lovely. So I was on a long list. I then made it to a short list, and that's when I got competitive, because I thought, if it's down to like 3 people, I need to.
You want to be that person.
This. And I had to just kind of have a meeting and pitch what I was going to do, what I wanted to cook, how I wanted it to feel, and I landed the job. But I wasn't allowed to tell anyone. So I
For how long?
It was about 3 months. So I had to kind of, work out all the detail of what I was going to cook, how we were going to bring it all together without really any of my team knowing anything about it. So that was quite
you couldn't even tell your team. Oh, wow.
No. So that was.
And you must have been doing lots of practice recipes and practice
it was interesting because
dishes.
I in my true style, wanted to strip it right back. And I just wanted to think about, obviously, Cornish-led produce, but also about what I want. What do I want to drink? It was about, like, if I'm putting my name to this has to be kind of a little bit of me here. And it sounds really narcissistic, but it was that sense of, like, this isn't about, what would they do? This is like, what are you going to do? And it was the most wonderful, wonderful job ever.
And we were talking before, and you were saying that small things like when you were laying the table, that you were really very keen to keep your belief of how the table would look, that didn't always go down too well with the private secretaries who were in charge.
The Foreign Office were very sweet to me in the end, but they did in a couple of meetings when I suggested that we were going to have tea towels as napkins and tumblers as water glasses. Because again, bringing my kind of French, kind of, my upbringing where we're having mismatched cutlery, that didn't go down too well either. But
did you manage to get that through? Excellent.
We did, and the tea towels look very nice, thank you. But it was I just thought, I'm going to turn up and I'm just going to be myself and say, I've got this job to do this, let me do it. And actually one of my, the best memory ever was I was standing in a circle with the American Secret Service on one side and then the English government on the other side. And I was in the middle telling everyone how we were going to do this. And when you just kind of do a little check back and think, what am I doing? I don't know.
Is this really happening?
Yes. But it all went really well. And I was told that they would be late. They wouldn't stay long. They wouldn't eat everything. And I can tell you that at the end, when I was invited up to meet President Biden and all the other world leaders and their wives, they were very relaxed. It felt like I was turning up at the kind of late for a dinner party that I'd been invited to, but I was just late. And everyone was very happy and relaxed, and they ate everything. There was just none of this, like, I didn't feel like there was joy. There was a real sense of joy. And that to me was everything, because I knew I'd done my job. And then
culinary diplomacy, which has worked through the centuries.
Yeah, and then Madame Macron, who my book, See and Shaw, was coming out the next day, and she had a copy and she passed it around the table so everyone would sign it, which they didn't need to do. They just didn't need to do that. They didn't need to kind of thank me. I'd been there and done a job, and I was going to, leave the building, pack the van up.
We're actually going to put the photographs from that signed edition onto the site so everybody can see
lovely.
It. That is so wonderful.
And the one thing I was super proud of is my children and Mark's children. We have 5 between us. Oscar and Rosie served the world leaders. Finn was in the kitchen. Evie, we did a canapé party for Her Majesty the Queen and at the time, and Camilla and Charles, we did a canapé party before, and Evie was serving canapés to the Queen, and Alex was doing the dignitary. We had quite a few events going on, and that was really super cool. And I thought, I think I've done the parent. I think I've ticked the box now.
Yeah,
we don't have to do anything else. So it was extraordinary.
That's wonderful. It really is. And for that dinner, I believe, Clos Vougeot. It was Burgundy.
Yes, sorry,
Burgundy
it was
served.
Burgundy. Sorry, no Bordeaux. It was Burgundy, and we did get to have a little taste at the end, and it was extraordinary. And what was really important to me was for them not to be rushed with their wine service. Not that I was trying to tell the butlers that came to do their job at all, but I was really adamant that the turbot with the Miso Beurre Blanc had to be served with the white, not the red. To me, there's nothing better in this world than turbot.
And a
Chardonnay.
great Chablis normally for me.
Exactly.
Yep.
So that was very special.
In fact, that brings me to another question. We talk a lot about food and wine rules, and often there are rules that you should just throw out and completely ignore, and others that maybe you really feel work. What would your kind of philosophy be to food and wine matching?
See, having living with a kind of a person that's made wine and is kind of has quite a strong sense of what he thinks and feels, I kind of feel like you should really not throw everything out, because I think knowledge is really important, but also enjoy what you like as well. But I like more and more trying to kind of drink reds with fish and seafood, because I think you always think of seafood being kind of more, you drink white wines when you're cooking with fish, and yes, generally they are good, but I'm going to work on so in my new book there's a monkfish bourguignon, and I've got to turn everything into something à la Bordelais. So we're gonna try but just thinking about the lighter reds that we could perhaps eat with fish. So
maybe here you could think about it for vintages. So
yes,
look for like a 2017 or a 2021, those kind of lighter styles, fresher, less tannic.
So maybe we could do something. We can work on something, a pairing of something together, because that's is interesting for me. Or even a chilled red as well. I think works really well with spicy dishes, whether it's a fish curry or I just think there are rules. Crab and Sauvignon Blanc, amazing. Two things that I will always love to eat: scallops and white wine. But I think if you're cooking a baked scallop with Ndua or chorizo, then there's room for maybe drinking a red. I think it's just it's interesting to try.
I love this, and it's making me hungry. Are there wider differences in terms of how the two cultures approach wine that you've discovered between France and England over the years, not just since moving to Bordeaux?
I think one thing here, it's so ingrained, so entwined, beautifully entwined in everyone's culture. I think without even realizing it, you're probably learning about kind of wine and terroir and everything like that. It's kind of it's kind of you're educated from an early age. Where I think in the UK, dare I say it, there's more of a pub culture in the UK. So although there are a lot of people, great pubs, yeah, having owned one and run one, they are, and a lot of them, it's all very focused on wine as well. But I think there's something, again, quite simple about coming together around a table with, some good wine and some food and some bread. And in the US, I always think they see it as more celebratory. You drink when you're celebrating, whereas for me, a stew and a glass of wine for my supper is perfect. That
can be a Tuesday evening.
Yes, that can be a Tuesday evening. Yeah. It doesn't have to be anything else. So I think we could learn a lot from the French culture generally, I think, because they seem to enjoy things much more.
Yep. Yes.
I think.
And I like that idea that it doesn't have to be a special occasion to have great ingredients and have great wine.
It's not about quantity.
Yep.
It's about just a glass.
Yep.
I think, and less is more. It kind of works well for how I think about food.
I would like to ask you a business question. So, you've opened a couple of restaurants, and the most recent in the Cayman Islands. Now, what are the things that you have to think about when you're bringing together from scratch, building up a kitchen, but also building up the front of house and the feeling that the guests are going to have? Where do you even start when you're doing something like that?
So with the Cayman Islands, I was approached as an opportunity to come on board to kind of, it's actually been a restaurant that's been there for 25 years and very loved. It's a very soulful restaurant. The Caribbean brings a very different culture in the sense that actually it's quite Americanized. So kind of going back to, it is all quite, big colours, bold, celebratory. But when I visited it before I took the job, I wanted to kind of understand the restaurant. So I flew over and I walked into this restaurant, and it was really odd because it took me back to being in the heart of Burgundy, which is odd. But there was a sense of place and soulfulness, and about, again, bringing people together. And the furniture's quite dark. It's a bit like going round to your grandmother's house and having the best kind of food. So I knew it was going to be a good fit for me because it felt right, and it was away from the glitz of the big hotels, which all have their place and are amazing. But
which, of course, there must be lots of in Cayman.
There are. But Calypso is kind of on the West Bay side. And it's very Caribbean, very colourful, and right on the water. So we cook fish and seafood, and all I've done is taken what they were doing, kept a lot of the dishes everyone really loves, but just, I guess it's all about the details. So you kind of look at the menu, look at the branding, you look at the team, you look at just the detail within each kind of front of house kitchen.
Do you work with interior designers, or
no,
do you really do that yourself?
So I'm very lucky. I think they caught on quite quickly that she quite likes kind of, it all has to marry together for me. So I kind of head a team of 30. I have a general manager that I work very closely with. And my head chef, Kai, has been working with me for 9 years. So he knows exactly what I think and feel and how I, want the food to be like, I guess. And it's been interesting because some people haven't liked the change, but I'm now going into my 3rd year, so we're kind of over that. But it's an extraordinary place, and our wine list, actually, I meant to send it to you and I will, it's a big wine list with some big wines on there. And partly because the American market really enjoy their wines. So
did you change the wine list a lot from when you took over?
No, but we've got some extraordinary wines on there and extraordinary vintages, and it's a really exciting place to be. But again, I don't think things always have to make creative sense, and I think that's what's really helped me with this new role, because I didn't understand how could you run a restaurant and a team remotely 5,000 miles away, because I'm only there 4 months a year. So it's been really interesting, but you can do anything, actually.
And you think that's a lot of the high-profile chefs around the world, of which you are one, that they manage to make that work.
And it was really important that I do spend more time there, because I get to know people, and I'm just not this kind of like consultant chef. I'm very much kind of there a lot now. So it's great fun, and again, the common denominator is food and wine.
Yep. Okay, so somebody's at home cooking fish, which often is an ingredient which people get a little nervous of. Cooking at home, tend to want to go to restaurants, not to do yourself out of people going to your restaurants. What would be your advice to people? What should they be thinking about if they're cooking fish at home?
So with my new book, Home Shores, it's all about inspiring you to cook more fish at home. So I would say keep it simple. And a lot of people forget that fish is seasonal. So it's really important to kind of, work with your fishmonger or your online fish stores, which actually have become, there are some great UK ones, I know. I'm still discovering
Bordeaux. In France, less so, I would say, right now. But so many brilliant fishmongers in Bordeaux.
So many nice ones. And it's about swapping out the big 5 that we're all got so used to, like your hake, your cod, your salmon, tuna. So it's swapping things out, but keeping it seasonal, but also tin fish.
So what about right now? We're in September. What would be good fish right now?
In Bordeaux, monkfish is really good, and you seem to always get it. And also hake's really good. Scallops, I think, are coming back in there. It's a different season here to what I'm used to in the UK. Mussels are good; they're coming in. So again, it's about taking taking 3 ingredients maybe. When you're cooking fish, good olive oil, lemon, sea salt, butter's always good. But, I always have a shopping basket of ingredients. Would be sea salt, olive oil, parmesan, herbs, and maybe some chili or espelette, But it's kind of having your base ingredients where you can actually just do something super simple.
Brilliant. Very good advice. Okay, I'm nearly done. I got 2 more questions for you. You've been in Bordeaux now for a couple of months, but have been visiting since 2016, so coming and going. Could you give us a couple of restaurants that you love here that you would recommend people try out?
Okay, so for fish, I really like La Pointe in Chartres. I really like that. Norbert is doing a great job. And
so that's on the Place de Chartres.
Yeah, and I love the way that you can kind of choose your fish. So they do sharing, turbot, they do lots of things that have come in, and you can almost pick the one you want. I love eating in the restaurant, although you can sit out on the square as well, which is quite nice. I love one that you recommended to me actually, which is Au Bistrot, which I think is probably that's very take me to Burgundy, but it's that kind of very similar to that.
And because it's located right by the market, just by Capucin, so guaranteed
and
seasonal
I love the bar.
and fresh.
And let's put me at a bar and let me watch, chefs cook is great because you just feel like, it's just part of the theatre. I think food is theatre. Going out should feel like that. So I think those 2,
Love it. Okay. And your most recent book has just come out very recently, like really a month ago, about.
Yeah, kind of end of May.
Yep. Okay, so now I've just seen it's 2 questions. Okay, so I'd like favorite recipe from that most recent book, or again, the one that you feel is closest to you. And the last question I have is, do you think you might open a restaurant in Bordeaux or do some kind of food event in Bordeaux?
So a favorite recipe out of Home Shores. There are quite a few that I love. I love the tin fish chapter, and I think if you're trying to introduce more fish into your diet or into your weekly shop, tin fish is really good, and you can get a lovely. They're called Pirate. The tin fish that I've seen a lot here, and it's really good. It's very good. So I would look at my tin fish recipes, but also there are quite a few sweet recipes as well. There's 4 because I have a sweet tooth, and I use kind of wine spirits in my cooking. So things like there's a Pedro Jimenez chocolate pot. And I actually collaborated with a Cornish company and made vodka. So my citrus vodka is in quite a few of the recipes. So again, it's just bringing Armagnac prunes and ice cream. It's kind of it's super simple, or affogato with maybe a little bit of Pedro on top of the sherry. So,
actually, to tell everybody listening, you did arrive today with a flourless chocolate cake, which was incredible.
I can't go anywhere without cake. I don't think cake is such a good thing to make. If I'm stressed, I make cake. I think it's a bit of a joke in our house. And would I do anything in Bordeaux? Well, there's a blank canvas there. Mark and I are slightly divided on that because he's kind of enjoying having Bordeaux as our place we are, but I would love to do some sort of supper club or something for charity. I don't know what that looks like. Can I open my house and have a small supper club? I'm not sure. Or wine events. Cooking at vineyards would be amazing. Who knows?
Okay, so maybe watch this space for that. Okay, thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Really wonderful talking to you. And it's I have the book at home and have been loving not just cooking from it but reading it.
I think the best kind of cookbooks are the ones you take to bed. Yeah. I firmly believe that. So it's I love books are everything, and as you know, as an author yourself, it's such an amazing thing when you have your own. It's all there. So it's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you,
having
Emily.
me.
See you soon.
Thank
and
you.
Yes, and I will make sure that we put the links to all of the books, and also do look out for some wonderful photos that we have of you cooking in G7, and also just generally of your incredible locations for all of your restaurants.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.
This podcast is produced in partnership with Wine Voices from Wine Searcher, the world's largest wine and spirits database. You can get a 10% discount on a 12-month Wine Searcher Pro subscription just by using the code JaneWS at checkout. Can be uppercase or lowercase, doesn't matter, just JaneWS. You can follow the link in the description to get started.